Okay, hey everyone, this is a subsentient tutorial on how to convert a MS-DOS partition table disk to a GPT partition table disk. Um, Before I proceed, let me tell you why you might want to do this and some of the risks involved. You might want to do this because MS-DOS partition tables are rather limited and can be kind of convoluted at times. Um, and like extended and logical partitions and such stuff as that. Um, and you can only have 4 partitions that are primary, and if you need more, you need to create one of your up to 4 partitions as an extended, and then you can have 4 more. It can be annoying trying to deal with DOS partition tables when you need more than 4 partitions. So for that reason, you might want a GPT partition table. But wait, your OS is already installed. Your Linux system is already installed on MS-DOS system. Now, how are you going to convert this? Well, it's actually not that difficult, and I'll show you how I do it. The bad news is it does require manual reconstruction of your partition table. The good news is it's not that dangerous. It's not like you're reformatting or destroying data or anything other than the MS-DOS partition table, which is then reborn as the GPT partition table. But if you make a typo, you may be in a bit of a problem. So I'd recommend that unless you really need this done, like if you actually are out of partition space, then don't do it. So anyways, here we go. I'm gonna open up a terminal. My machine's laggy because of the recording. Okay, I need to become root. Now, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna open up Gparted, and we're gonna direct it at our target disk, which is devsda. Now we're gonna do unit S, which sets it to sectors. This is important, you know, because it's very precise where your partitions begin and end. So you can see my partition table. This is an MS-DOS table. Okay, so we're going to convert this to GPT, but before we do, we need to make a dump so we can see where things go if our terminal gets reset or something retarded like that. So unit S print, and then we're going to direct this to a file. There, I already had this. So we'll just overwrite that with this. Okay. So you see we directed it, and now if we open that file, you can see it contains just the contents of the command that I ran, which beginning and end. Okay. Print. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm retarded. Well, no offense to anyone, of course. Remember to set it unit S. There we go again. Okay, MK table. This is where it gets funky. Now, you're going to get a lot of things saying disks are in use. Ignore them, because by the time you're done, if you do this correctly, you won't need to care, because your partitions will be back the way in exactly the same coordinates and everything as they were before, except with a different partition table. So MK table GPT. Ignore. I for ignore. Yes. Ignore. Print. You see we have an empty GPT partition table now. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do this again so we can see our stuff easily. Okay, MK part. Now, you don't need to name a partition. So, since this is ext4, my main partition, I'm going to set it as ext4, and then, since it begins at 2048S, you know what, I forgot something. And this is important, unit S. I believe most versions of Gparted will know that you mean sectors, but I'm not taking any risks with your data, so 2048S. Okay, then we will copy and paste the end. Ignore. Print. As you can see, we have our first partition already recreated. and it is usable. Okay, part. Now I'm going to do it the funky way. Linux swap. There's our beginning for our swap. And then if you go here, you can get the end. The beginning and the end, the alpha, the omega. I accidentally forgot to put a space. Then you can see we've got our partition table, you know, all set up. Now what we need to do is we need to set the legacy boot flag. So set one legacy boot on. Print. Partition table's going off the screen. Okay, there you see legacy boot. Quit. Now we're going to use Gparted so you can see, because Gparted actually detects the file system. So we're going to be able to see if it's corrupt, which it won't be. As you can see, it's locked, which means it's in use, which means it already recognizes that the partitions are there. And the kernel never actually decided to dismiss the partitions when we deleted them, so it was still using them. So it's using them at the same coordinates as before. Part probe just, you know, gets us our partitions back, and if we do Gparted again, you know, we're going to see the same thing as before. I believe Gparted actually calls part probe. Okay, now we've done that. Now we need an MBR. Now, usually you'd use the syslinux GPT MBR, because I use the syslinux bootloader. You don't have to. You can use grub, whatever. I don't know the exact procedure that grub uses for this, but I believe you could probably get away with installing grub on a legacy boot flagged partition. But, you know, grub's weird, and that's why I use syslinux. So, we'll install my MBR, which is just basically the syslinux GPT MBR with my name hidden inside it in empty space, but it works. Okay, now we have installed our MBR to the disk, which is the first 440 bytes, and we have set legacy boot, and this should take care of it. And let's actually test this out then. Sync. You see syslinux loaded, and in a second we're going to see my menu. QEMU is just slow, you know. You can see how things work here. Okay. So now if you do fdisk, you see you're not going to get an accurate reading, so you need to use gdisk. And then that'll tell you something, but, you know, I personally like parted. Oh, I forgot. Unit s print. Okay. So we've accomplished this. Now, once you've got your bootloader installed and your partition table reconstructed, you can add more than 4 partitions. As many as you want, I believe. Also, I didn't cover Windows or Mac or BSD or any of that in here because I'm not sure exactly how they do it. And I'm pretty sure Windows has terrible partitioning utilities, but I may be wrong. And I know Windows, except for the 64-bit editions, will not boot from a GPT partition table. So anyways, happy camping. Hope this helped you out. Take care. Bye.